Sorceress, me and Michael wrote one track together called Strange Brew. I had the basic idea for that track. It was quite different from the beginning when I did it at my home studio, more like a more evil version of Dazed and Confused with Zeppelin or something like that. But that one, I kind of came up with a seed for that song, the chord progression in the beginning and the end, in the end as well. And we just started to experiment with it, and Mike came up with the lyrics and the sections in the middle. So yeah, it was fun to contribute. Apart from that, I guess I do a bunch of guitar solos and come up with those ideas, and I also think everybody in the band contributes with their style of playing. In the end, when everything comes together, that creates a certain atmosphere, the way Martin Mendes and Axelrod plays, and Joachim as well, and Michael. It kind of varies. Sometimes he has everything thought out. He makes really good demos. Like when I hear the demo, it's like, wow, this sounds almost like a done album, because he's very picky with details. He doesn't leave anything, you know, without thinking it through properly. Like drum fills and stuff, he puts a lot of time into getting the right drum fills, and usually he has an idea pretty much done, and he asks me to come down and put down some guitar solos, and I basically just improvise over what he has done. And then listening back to the demo, he likes it, and I was like, oh, I want to try some different ideas also. But it's when you listen to the demo, you get used to your improvisations, and usually I have to relearn what I did, because sometimes I really don't know what I did. I have to, oh, what the hell did I do there, you know? So yeah, I usually try to relearn it and then try to take it up a notch with some small details. Well, it kind of came about before Heritage was written. Mike had a few ideas that was more into the vein of what we did on Watershed. But then I think it was Mendes who heard it, and he felt we need to do something different as a band. And that's kind of how it came about. Mike still used some of those ideas on the Heritage album, but in a different format. Maybe some other instrument plays a certain line instead of having a real distorted guitar playing it. I don't think it's that big. Of course, you don't have the growl vocals on it, and that's a big thing people still talk about. But we do that live still, quite a lot. So, I mean, I'm really proud of Heritage. I think it's one of those albums that will grow in the future. But I can understand it was a bit controversial for the fans that we changed up. Mainly with the guitars, we used single coil pickups for that one to get a more bright, Strat-sounding type of vibe for the guitars, which in the end came about pretty evil, I think, pretty cool. Before we started recording it, we wanted to be a bit more heavy guitars on this one compared to Pale Communion and Heritage. So we did, for the heavier songs on the new album, we recorded more guitars basically, and used more humbucker pickups compared to the single coil pickups. And also in the beginning there was talk that we wanted to do a real doomy album, but it didn't really turn out that. You have some doomy parts. We usually have that on every album, but that was one of the differences, I think. But also I think the new album is a bit more direct. It has some really strong melodies that people probably can catch up easy. Well, I played with Opeth almost 10 years. Next year it's going to be 10 years, so of course I know Michael's guitar style quite good now, because we play a lot together and we played many shows together now. So compared to in the beginning, it's probably easier for me now. In the beginning I had to put a lot of time into practicing the different riffs and the different acoustic picking part and stuff like that. I had to put a lot of time into that. And I think, you know, everybody in the band, we really practiced the songs really hard on our own before we went to the studio, so we feel relaxed and comfortable playing the different parts. So that's important. But it's always challenging. Michael always tries to put us on the test when he writes new stuff. He's like, I wonder if you can nail that drum beat or something like that. So I like challenge, that can make you improve as a musician as well. But vintage, I grew up with guitar players like Richie Blackmore, Gary Moore, John Ole Roth, Frank Marino, Ed Van Halen, Yngwie Malmsteen, those guys. Michael Schenker, very important too. I would say a bit of everything. I like to play a lot of blues stuff, or try to. And also, more technical stuff. It's interesting to check out the fusion players and stuff like that, like Sean Lane and guys like that. It's also interesting. So basically, you want to be good on different fields and blend it all together. Depends on what kind of song it is. You want to do something that fits the song, not necessarily playing something more like, hey, look at me. You want it to connect with the song. But sometimes you get to shred a little bit more and it's fun. Yeah, I met him once when I was younger. Yeah, because I was in a band called Talisman with Jeff Scott Soto and Marcel Jacob, who played with him in Rising Force on the Marching Out album. And Jeff was on the first as well. So yeah, we went out drinking with him some time back in the day, in the 90s when I was a little kid. But he was cool. He got to hang out with him and he gave me beers and got to try his guitar. So he was really nice. Yeah, with that band there was a lot of solos and he was a bit inspired by Billy Sheehan and stuff like that. So yeah, I had to learn like a few Rising Force songs. But when I was a kid, I didn't really want to copy one guitar player. I figured, I need to learn this song with Randy Rhoads, and maybe the song with Yngwie, and the song with Ed Van Halen, or John Ole Roth, just to know if I were able to pull it off, like a test. Well, the cover artwork for Sorceress, for instance, the idea about the peacock came about very early, maybe 2 years ago or something. So it was Michael's idea about the peacock, evil peacock, feasting on the human flesh. So we really liked that idea. It was his idea, but he brought it up with us, like we do with everything. So usually it's Michael and the designer Travis Smith. They work really close when it comes to the cover, and Michael's really involved with that. It's very important with the bonus materials when we do the vinyl covers, for instance. You want to try to capture that magic when you were a kid, opening up an Iron Maiden album, looking at all the details, and so we consider it very important with the cover art. We talked about some songs, but I won't bring those up. One song that I always thought about was "Diary of a Madman" with Ozzy Osbourne. It's a very epic, progressive track for being an Ozzy song. Lots of different sections, and that could probably be interesting. But apart from that, with the bands that would be very cool to tour with would be, if you mentioned some big bands, Metallica would be very cool to tour with, for instance. We did get to open up for Iron Maiden this last summer, so that was a bit of a dream, kid dream, But that was just one show. But that's also bands like Rush would be very cool, or a band like Rush. It's schizophrenic life. When you get back home, can be difficult to dial into the normal family life, so to speak. And we all many of us have small kids, and that makes it more difficult to go out on the road. But it's always fun to be on stage and play the shows. If you lose that thing, you should probably stop. Yeah. So we enjoy it, but the downside is, of course, being away from your family for a long time. But that's why we're now, these days, we only do 3 weeks and then break. Before we could be in America for 7, 8 weeks. And so we've changed, we set out a couple of ultimatums that we don't want to be out more than 3, 4 weeks. Now it's rarely you get to see stuff. Yesterday we had an off day here in Vienna, so we stayed in the center and went to some restaurants and pubs and had a walk around. It's a beautiful city, so watching these pompous buildings, it's pretty massive. So yeah, we do. It happens, but usually you're sitting like this. You have sound check 3 o'clock. Then it's maybe some interviews, and then food, and then getting ready for the show, warm up, play some guitar. Hello, I'm Fredrik from Opeth, and you're watching Metalpresse. And we'd like to take the opportunity to thank you guys who picked up the new album Sorceress. And tonight we're playing here at the Arena in Vienna. So looking forward to rock out.